This is the all-new Ram 1500 entering its 5th generation for the 2019 model year. This truck is larger, lighter, more fuel and aerodynamically efficient, and packs technology that has never been seen before in a Ram. Trucks are a very competitive category and also very profitable for its manufacturers. So for this Ram to be something special, to be a segment leader, it needs to be more than good. It needs to be great. So let's go for a drive and find out what this Ram is all about. So when I say, can this Ram be a segment leader? What I mean is, are there significant issues with it that would turn you away from it and go with one of its competitors, like the Ford F-150, the Chevrolet Silverado, or the Nissan Titan? Whenever I get into a car, I immediately try and find faults. No car is perfect. That is the mentality I face every time I step into a car. There are problems somewhere, and I truly have never faced such a challenge trying to find issues with a vehicle. So I'm gonna spill them to you now, and they might all seem like niggles and nitpicks, and it's because they are. This is such a brilliant truck. It has really taken me by surprise, and I can't find significant issues with this vehicle. So here's the small problems. I don't like the wood. They say it's real, but to me it doesn't look or feel like real wood. It really just doesn't look great. The 12-inch screen features Apple Carplay and Android Auto, although one of the problems I've faced so far with living with this truck is that the Apple CarPlay connection seems a little faulty. I've tried different wires, I've tried different phones, and it just doesn't like to accept and recognize my phone from time to time. Although the screen is really responsive, it looks fantastic and it works well, it's not the most pixel dense. Just from this distance here, I can see the black outlines of the pixel surrounds here with the coloring. And then I don't like these. These seem like a terrible afterthought and really chintzy and cheap. I'm not a fan of that. And that's close to all of the problems I have with the car. There's a few others, but we'll get to them later. So let's, as most of these features are focusing on the interior, let's talk about the interior. The Ram 1500 Limited has all of the features that you really want out of a truck, out of a vehicle even. We've got plenty of safety equipment, the 12-inch touchscreen like I mentioned. You've also got a 7-inch display here in the center that can be all customized around to show off different things in each corner. The gauges are crisp and it has a little bit of knurling around the tachometer and the speedo. The dials and the Ram logo are backlit, and it all gives this very clean and very well sorted out display in front of you. Nothing feels cheap. You do have hard plastics down here for the door surrounds. That's kind of to be expected, but the leather here is lovely. It's got this interesting stitching pattern here in the center to show off the Limited badge here on the door cards as well. The steering wheel feels great in the hands, and all of it is heated up. I wasn't expecting this real wood bit to get heated up as well, but it does. You've got plenty of storage options, so this center console folds about to have a ton of space down below, or you can have some cup holders, some more storage. This splits open in two with even more storage below it. And as an interesting feature, you have all of the measurements, or not measurements, I should say conversions. You've got tan, cosine, and sine here. And then if you look at the bottom here, I've noticed so far that FCA really likes doing this. They like to show a history of their vehicle, so you have outlines of the previous generation of Ram truck in there. Stitching all along here and on top of the dashboard, there's a little bit of hard plastic on the surrounds right around the air vents that lead to the furthest edge of the dashboard. Down here you have the toggle switches for your towing, your parking sensors, and the air suspension. Now the air suspension is available on all of the trims as an option. It's standard here on the Limited, and you have 5 different modes you can play with. You have an entry-exit mode, so that's the absolute lowest. Then you have an aero, a normal, and an off-road setting 1 and 2. And you can feel it working. It isn't rapid though. It will take its time. But with any of these modes, they're all speed restricted. So if you're going too fast for the lowest or the highest setting, it will return you to whatever the standard is. I'll keep it in aero. There's no point to have it in normal, as the aerodynamic mode is that. It's meant to make the car more aerodynamic, more fuel efficient. If you get this truck without air suspension, one of the things that it will do to increase aerodynamic efficiency is it has a splitter at the bottom that will flex out, and that will help make the car more efficient. Every single Ram, though, gets active grille shutters. Not only does that help out with aerodynamics, in the cold days, it will help warm up the engine faster. The exterior looks, although it isn't radically different to the truck it replaces, it does have some very important differences. The crosshair grille, which has been a hallmark of Ram exterior design, is no longer here. Not sure why they killed it off, but what it has led to is a fresh face. You can kind of see where, when they had the midlife update for the grille for the previous generation, how it's kind of been that middle ground between the full crosshair, that kind of middle stage, and then the truck that you see with us today. I've really tried to search through the brochures, the media, all of the descriptions of the design, and I can't find it anywhere, but that chrome strip that goes above the headlights and the top of the grille, what that looks like to me is the horns on a Ram goat, kind of coming from the center of their skull, in the way that it's coming from the center of the hood here and then spreads out along the side. If anybody else can see that, let me know, because I think that is a really subtle but really clever design feature. You've got a little plaque that you might think is a vent for the 1500 5.7 litre Hemi, but it isn't. There is no pass-through with it. Rams have long been known for their superior ride quality when you get the air suspension. And although this truck isn't a luxury sedan, the ride of it isn't far off. Same thing with the cabin noise as well. We have active noise cancellation throughout this car that's played through the 19-speaker sound system, and it is a big truck. As with any other of these vehicles, you'll notice the wind noise on the wing mirrors and all of it just being slammed up against the front of the car. But this is such an easy truck to drive. Going on an hours-long cruise on the highway, I feel just as refreshed getting out as I did getting in. Now, with this all-new generation, the Ram, we have two different engine choices, a 3.6 litre V6 Pentastar engine, and then the 5.7 litre Hemi. The power outputs are exactly the same as the year before, but there's an interesting addition to this generation. It's called e-torque. What it basically is a 48-volt system that replaces the alternator, and it's an electric generator with a battery pack. That system in the V6 adds about 90 foot-pounds of torque, and then for the V8 it adds 130 pound-feet of torque. You can get the Hemi with or without, but for the V6 you can only get it with an e-torque here in Canada. Now, it is kind of like a hybrid system, but it isn't giving you any sort of dedicated driving range. Think of it as a more sophisticated stop-start system. When you're coming to a slow down crawl, the engine will cut off and that electric motor will carry you to the stop line. And then when you put your foot back onto the throttle to get off the line, that electric motor has helped launch you as it starts the engine back up again. I haven't experienced this myself yet, as this is just strictly the 5.7 litre Hemi. No e-torque attached to it. But with this Hemi and its 395 horsepower, 410 pound-feet of torque, at no point did I think it wasn't enough to get me off of the line. If you were to get the V8 with the e-torque, all of the payload and towing capacity numbers go down ever so slightly. I imagine the additional weight of that system and its complexity brings that number down just a touch. There is no steering feel with this truck, but the weighting it is very consistent, and there's a fair amount of roll when you go into any sort of corner at any sort of speed. This Hemi also has another trick up its sleeve, and that is its cylinder deactivation. This engine will cut off half of its cylinders when you're coasting along, or you might have your cruise control set. I'm driving along now and I have a little light indicated that I'm in eco mode, so only half of the cylinders are working. If I ever put my foot into it, the other half immediately kick back on. It's a fairly smooth transition. Once in a while you can feel a little jolt. It's kind of like adding another gear to its 8-speed gearbox. You can feel and hear that transition if you really search for it, but if you've got your music playing, you could never know without looking at the eco light here on the screen whether you're in V8 or 4-cylinder mode. Interestingly, if you cut off half of the cylinders, you kind of introduce this new vibration into the driving experience. Ram noticed that, and what they did is add these actuators to the ladder chassis. Now what this does is creates an opposite vibration to what the engine is emitting. So you can't feel the difference between 8-cylinder and 4-cylinder mode. For rear seat space, for the Limited, you can only get it in the crew cab. Quad cab is the smaller size in this generation. And the rear seat legroom, for someone 6'4" like me, absolutely no complaints. I've got my seat set in front of me. I've got plenty of knee room and leg room. The floor is flat. They wanted to get rid of the transmission hump, so you see none of that here. You've got the Ram bins in the floor. Those can be taken out and washed. Here in this Limited, we actually have kind of this storage separation, so you could hide things under the seats if you wanted to, or collapse that a bit to allow you a little more foot space. No complaints back there either, as you still have the USBs, the USB-Cs, a proper 110 power outlet, and then the heated and ventilated seats as well. With the air suspension as well, you can actually lower it from your key fob. The truck will let you know, honking its horns a couple times, and then it slowly pivots down into the entry-exit mode. Is there any faults with the driving? Apart from that slight jolt you might feel in the transition of different cylinders, I can't think of much more. I am astounded by this thing. The Limited might be a bit too much truck for me, and as someone that doesn't live the kind of lifestyle that necessitates a truck, I want this truck. It is so smooth, so refined, has every piece of technology I could personally want out of a vehicle. The Ram has been a genuine surprise for me. It's not a luxury car, but it's damn near close. I can't think of a significant issue with this vehicle, and it's been a genuine challenge for me to try and find fault with it. So not only is this the best truck that Ram has ever made, it's a contender to be the best car FCA has ever produced. So without question, this Ram 1500 is a segment leader. That's been everything from me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you can like if you liked it, share if you think other people will like it too, and if you want to see more videos just like this one, hit the subscribe button just down below.